Hey guys, welcome to Ecommerce OS Fast Track Sessions, where we are going to solve one big problem. Today, we are going to delve into Selena Gomez's new startup, Serendipity. Today, I have Miguel Garcia Castillo on. Miguel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. Appreciate it.
I am so pumped to have you here. It's really fun because Miguel and I actually have done a lot of work together on the agency side. So Miguel, for people who don't know you, and this is why we're very comfortable together, before we get into the one big thing, we talk about Selena Gomez's brand and what we're going to be doing there on the 0 to 1. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, specifically at Co-Studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yes, my name is Miguel Garcia Castillo, and I am the founder and principal of Co-Studios. We're based in San Francisco, and what we do is we've built a venture platform that is focusing on supporting early stage emerging consumer industries. I always like to call it that 0 to 5 stage of growth, where both resources, growth, scale, and budgets all play such a critical role with each other. And we've developed business units inspired and designed with data that helps us understand where and how can brand operations support growth with intent for these early stage companies. So we've been in this business for now almost 10 years. We've learned a lot, and we have a lot of learnings that have only made us more intuitive in terms of what we want to do moving forward.
Today, we're going to be talking about a brand that you are working with and you're helping go from 0 to 1 called Serendipity. This is Selena Gomez's brand. Tell me a little bit about that connection and tell me a bit about the ethos of that brand and where you see things from a 0 perspective right now.
Yeah, we're incredibly excited about it. As you were mentioned, Serendipity Frozen is a new venture with our partner Selena Gomez. What we have done is, I don't know if you know the restaurant Serendipity. It's an icon in New York City. It's been around since 1954, and it used to be a restaurant that Selena used to go, and as a kid, when her mom used to go visit New York. So there was already this emotional connection with this magical place called Serendipity, now famous with the movies in the 90s, now famous with Friends and some of these pop culture moments. And what we saw an opportunity. What we saw was an opportunity to disrupt a pretty sleepy category. If you think about the frozen treat category, it's dominated by very few big whales and big individuals. And we saw an opportunity to disrupt this industry with not only an authentic and heritage-based story, but with a way to really start thinking about how we can make a positive impact. And when you kind of tie Selena and her idea and her mission to really be a voice of good within the mental health and mental health awareness community, we saw this perfect intersection between purpose and in pop culture that allowed us to bring what is now called Serendipity ice cream. We just launched 2 months ago. We are taking a very regional approach and a very methodical and smart retail first approach to our business. But as you know, DTC and just the digital ecosystem that we want to build for this brand is bigger than just product. It's really, truly want to be a lifestyle platform that allows us to have some fun, but also do some good in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this conversation today is really interesting in this whole 0 to 1 conversation that we're having right now, because every single brand, no matter what and no matter when, is doing a 0 to 1 in some sort of phase, right? Whether that's releasing a new product, whether that's going into a new market. I think probably a lot of brands are looking at emerging markets right now with what's going on in the States. And I say that as a Canadian looking into the States, and I'm sorry you're inside the jar right now, but looking at it from outside the jar, I can imagine a lot of brands are going and looking at other markets right now because nobody really wants to touch anything within the US from a big sort of standpoint until we figure all of this out. Let's talk about the 0 to 1 pain right now. Where exactly is the pain in this retail first approach? Because guys, with cold treats right now, we just don't have a great way to get them out there in the D2C space that is going to be cost effective, right? In, like, you think tariffs are bad. Imagine ice packs for all of these, right?
Yeah, and the cost that ultimately we would never want to pass to our consumers, right? And I think there's also something very in the moment about ice cream, right? When you think about that ice cream experience, it's almost like, hey, I feel like ice cream right now. Let's walk somewhere. Or, hey, I'm going to order it in GoPuff and it's on your door in 15 minutes. So we really want to make sure that no matter where people are experiencing our ice cream and serendipity and those moments of serendipity, as we like to call them internally. We want to make sure that it has that really authentic way of how people consume ice cream. And it's very much that in the moment decision that we want to continue to be participating. But to your point, it gives us some additional challenges in that 0 to 1 stage, which I'm really excited to kind of cover here. And I would go ahead.
So I was going to say, we need to get people into the store buying Serendipity and understanding why they're going to buy Serendipity versus Haagen-Dazs versus some of the other competitors that are in the space, right? We need to understand why they want to have this moment with Serendipity when there's a lot of different, competition that they can go to, right? And are they going to just buy it because it's Selena, right? That's often my question with this. And sorry, Miguel, I cut you off before.
No, and you're right. And our thesis of it is not only because it's Selena involved. As a matter of fact, I think as you kind of look at the brand, we are building a standalone brand platform that's connected to her ethos and her DNA, but ultimately we got to win on flavor, we got to win on price and value, we got to win on distribution. So the 101s of CPG venture launches is still very much part of this, and I think that's a big part of our 0 to 1 challenge. Is we're playing a highly localized game, that forces us to really be definitive and really specific in the types of marketing channels that we consider as part of our.
One of the biggest questions that I like to ask when really trying to get down to what the main question is within Ecommerce OS, which is the new platform that I'm launching right now. And from us working together, in consulting, one of the first questions that I ask every single day is, what is the biggest constraint? And the reason that I ask this, I love this idea. I was a paramedic for 12 years. And as a paramedic, there is one constraint that will kill you that is the smallest possible constraint. And that is when you have a clogged artery. If you understand how tiny these arteries in the heart are, they're they're very, very tiny. And so constraints, any type of constraint within your sales process or within your marketing process or whatever that is, one of those small constraints will be the difference between you being dead and alive as a business. And so, Miguel, what is the biggest constraint right now with Serendipity?
It's product location. It's continuing to make sure that we are where consumers are expecting us to be. And it's then driving that story so then people know. I mean, I think one of the biggest constraints is brand awareness. I think it's a tale all this time, right? Where I think at the beginning, yes, distribution and awareness have to play closely together, regardless who you are, regardless who's in your cap table, regardless what you offer. And I think for us, that will continue to be on a localized level is something that we want to make sure that we're driving through. And I will say why then content and storytelling and our tie to a mission that is bigger than just ice cream, it gives us a really great place to center our marketing efforts around, because it becomes something people actually want to talk about. So I was like, go ahead.
Oh, so I was gonna say, so this is a very short video podcast series, and the point of this, guys, is for us to solve this one big problem. And I think Miguel and I are getting down to what this one big problem is, right? And the big problem today is 0 to 1, right? You have this big celebrity in Selena Gomez. You have this great product, right? And I have no doubt that Miguel has brought all of the big players together in product, in marketing, in story, right? Miguel, over at Co Studios tells just incredible stories, right? To me, yeah. That's what you guys are incredible at. Now, how do we take all of that, right, and not have ice cream getting frostbite within these stores? I think that's the real question that we're trying to answer today. So for you, Miguel, let's talk through the 0 to 1 of making sure that product starts to move and people start to get to actually taste the product, because that's where we're going to start to get that snowball momentum, right?
Yes, absolutely. And those challenges, we see it almost in two parts of it. The first one is continuing to really drive what I call a very a hyper-local consumer into a decision that they have to make in less than 3 seconds. So, especially as part of Social Commerce Club and all of what you do on your agency side is kind of really helping people make those decisions before they're even walking into the store, for us continues to be a critical component, because we're ultimately going after first-time serendipity buyers. We know that 99.99% of our consumers are first-time buyers, so we got to get that pint or that ice cream bar into people's hands from part number one. The second part is, in a world where, and you mentioned it before, logistics is certainly a huge red flag in the frozen treats industry, and especially for anybody trying to build a DTC business around frozen goods. But it's around how do you utilize the power that building a direct-to-consumer ecosystem can do. So we are looking at complementary categories from the frozen treats space that can become a good part of it. That could include accessories, that could include toppings, that could include some other innovation ideas that merit a DTC and a digital ecosystem and plan. I think those are actually things from a 0 to 1 perspective that we're always talking about internally.
Absolutely. I think when I'm thinking about the 0 to 1 problem, I want to tell you guys sort of where I see this at. I see that you need to have awareness before somebody is going to make the purchase. Now, we are going to get purchases because of the branding, right? Because of the story, we are going to get purchases within the store. But how, when somebody goes to the aisle and sees all of the different things that they could potentially buy, all the different pints, all of the different flavors that are out there, how do we get them to try Serendipity? And to me, this is definitely an awareness and a curiosity type of problem, right? But also in this 0 to 1, we have another massive issue, right? Is that we need localized awareness, right? We don't just need nationwide awareness. And so when I'm starting to think about, okay, well, what are some of the different things that we can do when it comes to some of the different levers that we have to pull? One of the first things that comes to mind for me is YouTube creators, right? So localized YouTube creators, I think, is a very interesting strategy these days that people are using in the 0 to 1 sort of phase. That to me is a really, really big part of something that we can do to drive awareness, right? And start to drive traffic. And so this is organic. These are paid placements for the most part with YouTube creators. And I think that there's something really interesting there. You obviously know that I love TikTok, and TikTok can be incredibly hyper-localized, which is very interesting. Now, a product like this, these particular products are not going to necessarily be in TikTok Shop yet, right? And you talked about your other side of 0 to 1. And it's really fun. I love chatting with Miguel because Miguel and I come at it from different sides. You're like, well, in our 0 to 1 plan, we're going to just create more products that we can ship, right? In D2C. What I'm thinking about first is like, how do we get sell-through in these stores, right? Where do we get that sell-through from? And so I would start to look at, and I would leverage always, and Miguel and I have already talked about this in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Is like,
yeah.
I would leverage that. I would leverage Selena constantly. And I would let every single one of these influencers know, because who do these influencers want to be at the end of the day? The female ones, they want to be Selena. The male influencers, who do they want to be associated with? Selena, right? And so if they can say something like, hey, Selena's team reached out to me and wanted me to try this. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. You got to go try this, right? I would be leveraging Selena's name constantly when trying to sell this and make that the core of the original go-to-market, right? Because at the end of the day, when you have a product, and a lot of products out there aren't as easily differentiated, right, to a consumer. And when you have the opportunity to have a bigger name around it, I would leverage that all day long, specifically with the influencers. And that's how you're going to get incredible deals with the influencers as well, and maybe even get them posting for free because of her name. So that's of my 0 to 1 strategies that I would think in there, Miguel. I'd love to hear, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode today because Miguel is an expert in this space, right? And I think already has some really good ideas when it comes to solving this 0 to 1. Miguel, in one monologue, like I just did there, tell me your 0 to 1 strategy for Serendipity.
Yeah, I think I would summarize it in one piece, which is brand is a moat. In a world where you are playing in an industry and in a category where it's tough margins, tough distribution, as we've been talking over the last few minutes in terms of some of the logistical challenges of building an omni-channel business in a frozen treat space, it really highlights the need for brand being a moat into your business. Something that we always talk about in Coast Studios is not just brand is a moat, but it's an operating pillar. It's an operating pillar for your business. Yeah. Because when you think about it that way, most people think brand is an operating pillar for marketing. If you kind of go a couple steps back and think about brand as an operating pillar for a business, it helps you make better decisions, what you should and should not do, what your sales teams think is a good idea versus not. And it gives you a bigger kind of platform to always kind of stick to that true north. And I think when you look at, and I think your point about Selena and leveraging Selena is super well taken. I think the best part, the most surprising, and my favorite part about this whole thing is that her ecosystem, really, we're all in it together. You know, when I think, I mean, my respects to the Rare Beauty team and what they've been able to build at Rare Beauty around this idea and how they've really pioneered this conversation within the brand space. So we're just trying to do our part. We now know that if we are playing in the same sandlot as somebody as incredible as the Rare Beauty team, that we know how we have to act, and that helps us drive a lot of this. So for me, back to your question, that 0 to 1 really becomes about being really sure who you are as a company, because company is the new brand today. It's the decisions that you make internally that really eventually make an impact for consumers. So that's where we come at it. And it helps us make decisions that go beyond budgets, go beyond money, but also helps us stand of like, are we doing this with intent? And if the answer is yes, then we know that at least we can live another day. So that's what I look for when it comes to this kind of world.
One of the things that we talk about within e-commerce OS with the brands that are in there is creating the brand moat, because profitability has to be at the beginning of it, right? We need to think in a profit first type of mentality, and we can't charge more for a commodity product, because at the end of the day, even though this has Selena's name on it, ice cream is a commodity, right? It is 100%. A commodity in whatever sense, and most of you that are listening to this are in commodity products, unless you have some sort of moat that is outside of IP, infringement, right? And who knows what's going to happen in the future, especially with this China America thing. IP may not even matter. It might not even matter if everything goes down the way that it's looking like it will go down. And so, like Miguel said, the only moat for profitability is brand.
100%. Make no mistake. There are no shortcuts in CPG. It's in the CPG industry. We're still doing BOGOs. We're still doing email marketing. We're still doing coupons. This is a hard game. This is a hard game that then Selena helps us, gives us a megaphone and the heart behind the inspiration between the brand, but we got to execute day in, day out. So you're spot on there.
Absolutely. Miguel, what an awesome conversation. Guys, I just want to say this was great talking through 0 to 1 with Miguel. Look out for more episodes. And if you are interested in joining other brands who are seeing real success, go to ecommerceos.co. This is the new group where you actually have access to me personally within the group. Go to ecommerce.co and apply to be part of the group. We accept about 30% of the applications that actually come through. Miguel, I just want to say thank you again so much for your time today. And this was a blast. And we will see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for your time. I'm just glad I didn't curse during our conversation today. So thanks, Jordan.